Ever buy one of those cookbooks that you think is going to be absolutely perfect for you and you just can't wait to try it? And then you get it home and something about the execution of it just doesn't excite you anymore. So let's go ahead and take a look at this cookbook and see if the layout would throw you off as it kind of did me. And is this going to be another episode of Should It Stay or Should It Go? I don't know. Let's go ahead, take a look at it, cook something from it, do our taste test, and then we'll see what we actually think about this cookbook. And here's a close-up of the cookbook we're going to be looking at. Before we really get into like the layout and what I did like and what I don't like, let's go ahead and actually get started with our recipe so we can get it in the oven. Here is what we're going to be working with today. And I picked this for a couple different reasons. You'll see we've got some little squashes right there. Well, I just so happened to have bought some at the farmer's market and I really need to use these up. So I thought this would be a perfect way to try these out because this is a squash I've never actually eaten before. I had already had some pesto that I needed to use up. I went and cut up all of the basil out of my garden and herb garden, and I turned it into vegan pesto. I've got a lot of it frozen in little jars in my freezer, and this was just not enough to put in a jar, so I just put it in my refrigerator, but we need to use it. Earlier today, I also went ahead and made my ricotta cheese. This is another vegan recipe with cashews and lemon juice and that kind of thing, and it is really good. So I'm excited to try that. And if you want to know where I got this, don't worry, I will be putting an episode out soon reviewing the cookbook that I got this recipe from. I've also already got my puff pastry thawed out. I'm going to go ahead and roll this out a little bit. The recipe said to use one. I think that's pretty small. I wanted to go ahead and use up quite a bit, so I'm going to use both of them, and I think I'm going to go ahead and roll them together so I can kind of make one big one. And we also need to roll some of these seams together. So we'll go ahead and do that and get this started in the oven. You can see it is simple ingredients, not a lot of fuss or bother. That's some of our favorite recipes, and it uses up exactly what I needed it to use up today. So let's go ahead, get it ready and get it baking, and then we will talk about the rest of this cookbook. And now let's take a closer look at this cookbook. You can see the cover is gorgeous, which is what caught my eye. It's got some cute little watercolor illustrations in there, some rustic looking food, retro kitchen gadgets. It looks wonderful. I only got it for $7 with some trade credit that I needed to use up. So I thought this was going to be the perfect cookbook that I would use forever and ever. However, when I got it home, since I didn't really look at it too closely in the bookstore, I kind of noticed something that might be a little annoying. You can see it's really kind of unorganized in a way. You've got arrows going all over the place pointing to different things. You've got all kinds of different fonts, which I really don't care for. And the directions aren't really labeled like 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're kind of just scattered all over the page. Now, I can see what they were going for as an overall look. I think the cookbook does look really good. You've got some beautiful pictures. They're very rustic, and I think they fit the theme of the cookbook very well. And I understand that they were kind of trying to go for something different. However, sometimes different just doesn't always work the best. Now, this could be because I am so used to traditional style cookbooks. And by the way, I got this one for only $3.99 at Ollie's. I haven't tried it yet, but this is probably something that I will put on the channel eventually to test it out. But you can see here, you have a very organized and traditional view of the cookbook. So you've got your picture on one side, but you've also got all the information you're going to need here at the top. You've also got your 1, 2, 3, 4, all your directions laid out very nicely in a numerical way. All the fonts match, so you're not confused as to which thing that you should read next. And there's no arrows pointing everywhere. You also have your ingredients listed, very nice and organized in kind of like this little box right here. And this is, of course, true for every recipe in here. So you're getting, you know what to expect, and you're getting exactly what you need as soon as you look at the recipe. Now, for me, this is what I prefer. This is my kind of go-to look on a cookbook. So this one kind of caught me off guard and kind of made me not really use it. Now, I will admit, this is literally the first time I have used this cookbook, and I've had this for probably about 3 years now, and I have yet to really look at it and actually pick something out of it that I want to try, which is why I wanted to put it on the channel, because it kind of made me pull this thing out and actually use it. Now you can see here, this is a little bit more organized, but again, you've got kind of, weird, I don't know, just kind of all over the place, it seems like. So, I don't know. I think I'm going to keep this cookbook if this particular recipe tastes really good. I would like to try some of the other things in here. But maybe going forward, if I see another cookbook that's kind of laid out like this, I may not actually be so quick to grab it. But, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below if this is a style of cookbook that you would like, or would you kind of just find this a little bit on the annoying side? And now another little caveat I have with this cookbook, which could be a pro and it could be a con depending on what you're looking for. This is simple vegetarian recipes for my cabin in the woods. That's great and awesome. However, don't expect to find a whole lot of things that are going to be full meals in this cookbook. I would put this more into the category of side dishes,
possibly appetizers, but I wouldn't, except maybe with some things like this, I wouldn't put the majority of these recipes in a main dish category. She actually does have an appetizers chapter, but I would argue that pretty much everything in this cookbook is an appetizer. And for the most part, a lot of these recipes are super, super simple, and things that you would probably just find on Pinterest. Like I know these Parmesan lace snacks was kind of a big trend on Pinterest a few years ago. But now that also could be a pro for you if you're wanting just simple recipes that just have, you know, very few ingredients. Then this is something that you probably would want into your collection. Now, I do think her salads look really good. This is something that I would love to try. And so really the only con I have with this cookbook is kind of the, you know, disorganized way that the recipes are written. And something else also, you know, sometimes you do want consistency with your recipes. You can see here that every single recipe is written out the exact same way, so you have consistency all throughout the cookbook. That is not true with this one. As you will see, almost every single recipe that I've turned to, it's been written completely different. So sometimes you are going to get your ingredients nicely written out for you, and other times you're going to find recipes in which you're going to have to read and try to figure out, okay, how many ingredients do I actually need to do this recipe. But if that's an issue that you don't mind dealing with and you actually really like the layout of that cookbook, then I'd say it's something to check out. It was published in 2014, so you can probably find it on eBay, probably on Amazon for, you know, a good used deal. But just remember and keep in mind that if you do like a lot of organization in your cookbook, you're not going to get it from this. And it's not really heavy on main dishes. It's mostly something that I would term more appetizers and side dishes to something that you've already made. But like I said, that could be a pro if you're looking to add more vegetables in your life and you are wanting to have some side dishes that you're adding into your regular dinners. So I'm going to go ahead, do some cleanup, let this tart continue baking, and then we will come back together and do our taste test. Okay, we are almost ready to do our taste test, but I just wanted to interject a couple of things. So number one, when making this, I think I would have went ahead and added another pattypan squash. You know, it looked like it filled it and then it kind of shrunk up. So maybe if you do make that, keep that in mind. Go ahead and add one more than you think you're actually going to need. And then I think you'll get, you know, a better coverage of your tart. Also, the recipe said to drizzle the olive oil, but you know, halfway through baking, I noticed that they weren't really, they just didn't look quite as nice as they did in the picture. So I went ahead and put a little olive oil in a little bowl and with a little brush. And I went ahead and just brushed the olive oil onto each one. And you can see, I think it did a lot better, you know, allowing it to bake without drying out. So those are just a couple of things to keep in mind. Brush your olive oil on and maybe one more patty pan than what the recipe calls for. And then I think you'll have a really good looking tart. Okay, I think we're finally ready to try this thing. So let's hope all that work was worth it. Now, we do need to preface that this is a little bit different from the recipe because the cheese has been omitted. Mm-hmm. So this is the vegan version of this, basically. Yeah. So it's probably going to taste a little different than what the author intended. However, if the vegan version is this good, I mean, if you're...
All right, Nikki. Kitty!
You're okay.
You're okay, cat.
Okay. So if the vegan version is this good, can you imagine if you're able to eat cheese and how good? You know what I mean? Like how good?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this a 4.
Yeah, easily.
I think it's really good.
The only downside I would say might be that like it's a really strong flavor.
Yeah, it is really strong.
So like if you get enough crust with it, it kind of mellows it out a lot better. I think the cheese would also do that some.
Probably. The basil's really strong.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it still works.
Oh, it's
really good.
It's really good. I'm not trying to. It's still an easy 4.
Oh,
I was just like, of all the things you could complain about, I think the fact that it's pretty strong is about the only one. And I think that would be offset by the cheese. And you could also offset that by just putting like a thinner layer of the pesto or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you could, if you didn't prefer it this way.
And that is something to keep in mind if you do make this. If you don't like basil, you're not going to like this.
No, if you don't like pesto.
Right, yeah, you're not going to like this anyway. But if you are a basil lover, then this is right up your alley. Yeah, so I'm a little bit surprised just because with the way, you know, all the kind of cons I was talking about earlier with this cookbook, it really made an excellent recipe. I like the idea of this. You know, this is something that you can just throw whatever vegetables you have left over. You know what I mean? You don't have to just stick with like the little patty pans. You can go all kinds of different squashes, some tomato. I mean, just grab whatever is in your garden.
Whatever, yeah,
or the farmer's market. And I think this is an excellent idea. So it's a great base. And then you could just go and add whatever you want to the top of it. Now, as far as the cookbook, I already went through a lot of it, so we're not really going to talk about it here. But I just wanted to say that I thought maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just kind of unnecessarily being, you know, nitpicky with it. So I asked Mitch to look at the cookbook, and I said, just what's the first thing? As I'm flipping through this thing, what is the first thing you think? And he said,
I couldn't tell what to read first. Like, you just can't tell what you're reading. It takes you a minute just to decipher the, like, formatting, I guess.
Yes! Yeah. And you also notice that it changes too much from recipe to recipe.
Yeah, some use arrows, others use asterisks, and...
Yeah, so it's just all over the place, which, like I said, is something to keep in mind if you don't care for that. Now, on the flip side of that, it gave us a really good, you know, lunch idea that we're really enjoying. So I probably am going to keep this in my collection for a little bit longer and just kind of overlook the format of it and just kind of dig in there and, you know, get to the meat of the actual recipe. And I think, judging from this, you know, the other ones look really good, and there's some good ideas in there. So, yeah, there you go. We had a really, really good way to use up some squash and some other vegetables if you just want to throw them in there. And very pleasantly surprised at how this turned out. So, really happy with it. Happy, you know, that we pulled something good out of this.
Yeah.
And now, as for next week, we're going to be doing our camping extravaganza kind of episode. Hope you stay tuned for that. And thanks for watching this one. We'll see you later. Bye.
And if you like historical cooking and unusual cookbooks, here's 2 more videos you might enjoy. And make sure to like and subscribe for more foodie adventures.